Looks like all you see of me is a silhouette. That's okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. I think we're set up now, finally. We're another technology problem. We're dealing with all kinds of technical complexities here. We have a whole crowd of devotees here today. Live, there's a live audience. Got it? Yeah, I guess that's better. Good. Thank you. We have a live audience. Maybe I can show you the audience. What happens if I turn this on?
I can do it.
Oh, you can do it from there?
Probably we need to say something.
You need to say something in order to need it.
Can you see the audience?
Yeah, there they are. TSDD. Okay, let's get started. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kalamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuktapalakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Shakanditam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Vinani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatani Vansha Kalpataru Yasha Piva Sindhya Evacha Patikana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome to Saturday Sanga, broadcasting from Ljubljana. from the apartment, from the flat of Shravana Ramaniya and Kripamoy Govinda. And we are going to sing a song and from Bhaktivinoda Thakura. And then we're going to have a special guest who is not a secret. Dhruva Prabhu is coming all the way from, I don't know where he is now. He's going to get us into the Nrsimha mood. And get us all growling like lions. Or just being silent and sweet like Prahlad. Okay, shall we go to our song? This is our song. Our song is Bhaktivinoda Thakura's Kalyana Kalpataru Lila Kirtan song number 2. And this is a short song. Now I have to do some adjusting of everything. Let's see, this is going to work. Okay. And we have all kinds of technology. Kinds of wires. Okay. Right. I think we've got it. Ami jamunā-puline kadamba-kānane ki herinu sakhī-ajo āmār shama vamshidari mani i-mañcopari kore līlā-rasera. Yeah, if you have a phone, you can see the lyrics. I think link has been given. Everyone here has that link. So the first verse says, "O sakhī, my dear girlfriend, what have I seen today? In a kadamba grove on the banks of the Jamuna, a beautiful blackish boy holding a long flute, a vamshi, is seated upon a throne of jewels, performing his pastimes as the king of all transcendental mellows." That text is kind of small to read. Yes, that's better. Okay. Then, so Ami is, it's in parentheses, it's the first person pronoun I. Ami jamunā-puline kadamba-kānane ki herinu sakhī-aja. Herinu is the verb. Ki herinu, what have I seen? What have I seen? When? Aja, today. What have I seen today? Huh?
Today.
Yes, we had some confusion about this yesterday. Yesterday we had confusion about today. It's getting really complicated. This is for those of you not in the room here. This is an inside joke. We had Bhakta today here, and we got some confusion about today and today. And the confusion came yesterday. But I think Taranī-sakhī wants to continue the confusion. All right, so jamunā-puline kadamba-kānane. What have I seen today in the groves of the Kadamba Grove, Kadamba Grove, jamunā-puline, next to the Jamuna, on the bank of the Jamuna. āmār Sham. āmār is the possessive first person. So my Shama, Vamshidhari. So a guardian is one who holds. So Giridhari, Giridharin, Giridhari is he who holds the mountain, and Vamshidhari is he who holds the flute. And Shama is Shama. Shama Vamshidhari. Mani i-mañcopari. Mancha upari. Upari means on top of. And money means jewels. So, and mancha means a platform. So a jewel platform, upari, on top of a jewel platform. Hore līlā-rasera. There is the Lila-rasera, the king of rasa and Lila. The song is about Lila. It's Lila Kirtana. So it's a vision of Shama on this jewel platform, and Bhaktivinoda Thakura is saying he's in the mood of a-sakhī, in the mood of maybe one of the manjaris speaking to the other, and he's saying, she is saying, wow, what have I seen? I've seen something very special, and that he's describing. Verse 2, Krishna ākeli sudhā-prasravana taro a-dalopari Shri Radha Shri Hari a-sakhī. Situated upon the 8 petals of the jeweled altar is Shri Radha and Shri Hari, surrounded by their attendants, the 8 chief gopis. So Ashtadala, Dala means petals. Ashta means 8 petals. Upari, so Dala Upari becomes a-dalopari, very Sanskritic, Bengali. And what is happening on these 8 petals? Shri Radha and Shri Hari are there, sakhī parijana, with their 8 sakhīs, parijana, their associates, encircling them. And there Krishna performs his amorous pastimes. Krishna Kshetra, Keli means pastimes. Lila and a-keli are pretty much similar. Keli means play. Lila can mean play, pastime. Sudhā-prasravana. let's see. Like a waterfall of nectar. Ah, yes. So sudha can also mean wine or some alcohol, some intoxicant. Sudha. And it's different from shuddha. Shuddha means pure. Sudha can mean wine or it can mean, nectar. Intoxicating nectar. It's usually something intoxicating. And here it's sudhā-prasravana. It's a cascade. It's like a waterfall of nectar. So it's very overwhelming. So Krishna is displaying all this, and Bhaktivinoda Thakura is seeing. And now he's in the mood of, we can say, his inner identity, his spiritual identity. Then he says, Tara sugīta-nartane, shava sakhī-gan tushiche yugala-dhane. Takon Krishna Lila heri prakriti sundari vistariche shobhavane. By singing sweet songs and by dancing nicely, all the gopis satisfy the treasured divine couple. Thus I am beholding Krishna's pastimes with his beautiful female consorts, expanding throughout the splendorous forest. So there's a lot there. I won't try to translate all of it word by word this time because it takes too much time. But sugīta-nartane, nartana is dancing, sugita, singing, sweet songs like that. Shava sakhī-gan. Krishna Lila heri. Heri, this is with the little apostrophe. It means what's being replaced with that apostrophe is Y long A, heriya. So having seen heriya, having seen what? Krishna Lila. Prakriti sundarī vistariche shobhavane. So it's a beautiful scene. And the last verse is Ami gore na jaibo vane praveshivo. O līlā-rasera tare Ami tyaji kula-lāja vraja-rāja vinoda minati kore. For the sake of the mellows of such pastimes, I will not go to my home. Gore is home. Na jaibo, I'm not going home. But I will instead enter into the forest. Vane praveshivo. O līlā-rasera tare, for the sake of this Lila. Renouncing all shyness, tyaji, ami tyaji, tyajiya, having renounced kula-lāja, the shyness or embarrassment of the family, literally. Giving up all of that, renouncing all shyness to the fear of family members. Bhaja, vraja-rāja, just worship the Lord of Vraja. This is the humble submission, Vinoda minati kore, the humble submission of Bhaktivinoda. So he's giving us a nice invitation. Don't worry about your family. Just go to the forest. and share this vision, see this vision. Okay, let's see if we can figure out how to sing this. It's going to be a-keli. Jamunā-puline, kadamba-kānane, i-herinu, sakhī-gan. Okay. a-dalopari, i-keli, kadamba-kānane, Sanga, sudhā-prasravana, i-mañcopari, Krishna Kshetra Swami, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Complete Bhajan band. Usually Saturday Sanga, we're by ourselves in terms of accompaniment. Okay. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai. Okay. Hare Krishna, Vayu life.
All right. My obeisances. Sorry, that's my son. It's my son's Zoom.
Welcome.
So nice to see you.
Dhruva Prabhu. Where are you located right now?
I'm in Alachua, Florida.
Alachua. That's right. That's your home, isn't it?
That's the base.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'll just say briefly to everyone to introduce you, and then maybe Harinamamrita would like to say some more about yourself, and then you can say all you like about yourself. So, Dhruva Prabhu, the last we met was last September. Oh, there's an echo. In Singhachalam, Germany. Dhruva Prabhu is, I think of him as the Indiana Jones of Nrsimha temple searching and Nrsimha worship. Is that a fair portrayal? Maybe.
I think it was. I think I guess so. But I think our adventures were a bit more scary.
More scary?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, Dhruva Prabhu, since what? Ever since you can remember, maybe, you've been worshipping Nrsimhadeva, you've been a Nrsimha Bhakta. You were spending, I don't know how many, some of your early years in India, in Gurukul or Gurukulas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I don't know to what extent those experiences nurtured your Nrsimha bhava, but that's something you can tell us about, I'm sure. Lately, I believe you've been adventuring again in South India. You've been searching more Nrsimha temples and so on.
Oh yeah. It was since I saw you last. I was I think the traveling was about 4.5, 5 months of mainly in the south.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Something I would like to especially hear about from you at some point is this intriguing idea that you mentioned to me in Singhachalam, that Nrsimhadeva is sort of the founder acharya of yoga. Yoga, we know the form, yoga Nrsimha, where Lord Nrsimhadeva, as I've heard it, demonstrates the practice of yoga to Prahlad. But maybe later you can say something about that. Now, are you there? Harinamamrita, where are you?
She's here.
You're here. I knew you're somewhere.
Technology is amazing. We can get together.
Huh?
I said this technology is so amazing. There's so many devotees all over the world, but we're together. It's amazing.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow.
Yes, it's nice. Now, what I've heard the rumor is that we have collectively a whole battery of questions for you on Nrsimhadeva.
Oh boy.
And so, Odarya Chandrika, you have a list of questions? Or?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I have a list of questions, but if Dhruva Prabhu can say first something about his life, and then we will see how much time we still have. But otherwise, yeah, I have a questions.
Okay. You have only one question?
No, questions.
Questions. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good. Yeah, Dhruva Prabhu, please tell us about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's I love talking about Nrsimha with everybody. It's my favorite thing, and ever since I was, it was in New Vrindavan where I grew up, and back in 1983, there was a deity of small deity of Ugra Nrsimha that at that time Swami Bhaktipad had got the approval from Srila Prabhupada to bring to New Vrindavan. So it was a small deity. And then, so that deity, because they were building the new deity of Nrsimha, the huge one, that deity was gifted to me at that young age. Just before I turned 4, and then
before you turned 4.
Yeah, I remember I used to carry him around. I had a horse, and I would have him in a bag. It was very interesting, like and carry him with me everywhere, because my father and other senior devotees told me that Nrsimhadeva is with us everywhere. Ito Nrsimha, Parato Nrsimha. So I took that literally, that he should come with me everywhere. So I had this heavy brass deity. I would bring him to Gurukul. It was very interesting. And then while they were building the big idol, I was lucky to partake in that and be part of that. And when they installed him in, I think it was 1985, that was probably the event that sent shockwaves in my conviction of who he was, because that deity, and again, that deity is Shanti Nrsimha, or like a yoga Nrsimha. And I'll never forget that event. All the devotees, sannyasis, and they were all like screaming Nrsimha, Nrsimha. It was the most awesome event of my life, I think. And I was so young. And then after that, I think it just sunk in. And I never went the conventional path that most other kids did, where, you go to, I finished school, but I never had the desire to do university or anything. I was more interested in finding out about Nrsimha, because there was a limited understanding of him back then, meaning I never understood why there's so many temples in India of Krishna, Ram, everybody, Shiva, you name it. But then how is it there's not so many of Nrsimha? I couldn't understand, or he's not spoken about. So when I was a young teenager, I happened to stumble upon that article that Nrsimhadeva Swami wrote about Ahobilam. And I was like, this is far out. So that kind of started my search. I was working at the time, doing, I was quite blessed and with Lakshmi when I was very young. So I didn't do what my friends do, buy cars and have fun. I immediately said, I'm going to India. I was quite young at the time, 16 or something. And I went to India by myself and ended up in Ahobilam. And that started the whole, addiction, should I say, even though that word is not a positive word in the contemporary world, but for me it was like this fanatic addiction. And from Ahobilam, all the devotees in Ahobilam, I said, is there any other Nrsimha temples? And as you do with your hometown or your home team, like your football team, you're like, we're the best. There's nobody compares. So the Brahmins in Ahobilam were like, no, Ahobilam is it. There's a few others dotted around, but anyways, this is where you came. This is the beacon. I wasn't so convinced. So at that time, I didn't know much Hindi or Telugu or anything. I just had the Jadharani's photo of Ugra Nrsimha, which at that time I thought was the only form. And so I had that photo and my little bag, and it was like a roller coaster from one bus to, camel carts to, it just started from Ahobilam to another temple. And then I just got lost for months in Andhra. And within Andhra, every temple I would go to, they would say the same thing. Nrsimha appeared here. This is where he appeared, and they were convinced. And at that time I just believed everything because, in a sense, he can, depending on the devotee, he can appear. And in Andhra, there was so abstract the forms, like there would be a wall in a cave and they would say, this is Nrsimha. And growing up in ISKCON, we're used to idols. And I'm like, well, how can that wall be Nrsimha? It was very interesting. And, it carried on like this. And then from Andhra, they convinced me there was no temples in Tamil Nadu. But that was not a fact. Tamil Nadu, I went to Tamil Nadu and they convinced me that there was no other temples anywhere except Tamil Nadu, and Nrsimha appeared there. And same, and next in, Kerala, and Kerala was unique because Kerala is predominantly Christian, but they still have some of the oldest temples in India. So I was helped by a father, a Catholic father, who his Ishtadev was Nrsimha before he converted. So he took me to many temples and he encouraged me on my journey. And gave me it was very unique.
I guess.
And then Maharashtra, and then people were like, there's no temples in North. And a few devotees were like, oh, there's one or two in Vrindavan, a few in Rajasthan. And it just became this journey of, like, it was very in the beginning selfish, like me, I want to find more, I need more. The next Nrsimha fix, where's the and it was pretty wild. And each state had its own dynasties, right? Like you have the Rajputs, the South India, the Vijayanagars, the Cholas, and these great kings. When I started studying and actually doing the research, like a thesis in a sense, I realized that every king in India, their Ishtadev was Nrsimha, but they gravitated towards say Balaji or Ranganathan, or in Udupi Krishna, or even in Jaipur, Govindev Ji. But actually, a lot of people don't know the main deity is a Nrsimha Shalagram that's been in the king's family since the beginning. And that Shalagram's in front of Govindev Ji, right in front of the palace. So the kings, before they see Govindev Ji, they worship Nrsimha. Then from Nrsimha, they go see Govindev Ji or Gopinath, and like this. So I started to learn more about the foundational implement that Lord Nrsimhadeva has in the entire Vaishnav community, or Vaishnavism in a sense. And that really blew my mind. Because even though we have the seventh canto, and obviously Srila Prabhupada gave such importance to Lord Nrsimhadeva for the movement, what he started, and for protection, there was just this, I thought that was it. And I thought, in ISKCON, we had the, we were the ones that knew.
The corner on the market.
Yeah, the corner on the market, exactly. And I started to meet these other swamis, or even these in India, they have this like these lady swamis. I think they're called swaminis in South India. And they were devout Nrsimha devotees. And then I started becoming like a fly, you know, around these people, whether they were pujaris, swamis, grihastas, there was kids, young men, women. Their faith for the aspect of Nrsimha as Bhakti Vinyasa, the remover of obstacles, was mind-blowing for me, because there was no doubt. He was their father. He was their protector. And then going into the God of Yoga aspect, even though in the beginning that was being pushed on me, I didn't see it so much later in my travels. You know, he is the God of Yoga. He will help not just remove, you know, the bigger obstacles, right? But he can remove those things in our mind, which Patanjali Yoga talks about, and how Nrsimha is preaching that to Prahlad, that the mind is the problem. So we have to calm the mind, remove the anger, remove the fear and all this stuff. So it's been like a crazy adventure, and, you know, with tigers, all the other,
Tigers.
now that I'm much older, this last trip when I went, after I saw you, because we have all this technology, and in the old days, there was no technology, there was no cell phones, it was just me and a photo. And I would have to ask them, Nrsimha Swami Devasthanam, not Nrsimha Mandir, Nrsimha Swami Devasthanam. And then so many kind devotees would end up bringing me or showing me the way. And sometimes they would the bus driver would stop in the middle of the road or the jungle, and he would point Nrsimha Devasthanam, and I would just have to get off, and I would be left in the middle of nowhere and just walk into the jungle, and there's some temple, and sometimes, and it was already too late.
Dhruva Prabhu, please keep speaking. Yeah. I will be back in a flash, but I have to disappear for a moment. But you please keep speaking.
Okay. Yeah. So I would have to I ended up, and sometimes I would end up sleeping at these temples at night alone, because the Brahmins, I didn't know where they were. And I didn't realize there was tigers. There was very dangerous situations. So as I got older, I realized, how the heck did I do all that stuff? Like I was actually crazy. I was insane to be able to, I think I was like beyond fearless, or I just knew that Nrsimha would protect me, that I couldn't be harmed, I couldn't die. I had this fearlessness, especially growing up hearing Prahlad Maharaj's teachings. Prahlad Maharaj was fearless. So he said, bring on this, his father was torturing him. They tried to poison him, threw him off the mountain. He didn't struggle. Like if any of us were going to be thrown off a mountain, we would be fighting for our life. But Prahlad, he just, you know, was thrown off, and then the Lord caught him. So it was a very, maybe in my sense, because, you know, I'm very conditioned by being a human, I had this fearlessness, this crazy kind of conviction when I was younger. And it stayed with me for a very long time, until obviously I did the whole grihasta thing and that situation, and then you start to think, wait a minute, you know, protect your fear, protection. I have to, you know, guard what I believe is mine, and all these things, you know. And this last trip, my final trip to do the documenting of the second book about Nrsimha Yoga, I had a little more, I had comfort. I had a car this time. I wasn't on buses, rickshaws, trains, walking for hundreds of kilometers. And it was the level of danger was still there, but it was more convenient. And I was remembering how there must have been some sort of, I don't know how it happened still, I'm trying to figure out. But after finding hundreds of temples, 500 plus, 800 plus, 1,000 plus, and now coming up towards 1,400 temples in my whole life since I was a teenager.
All Nrsimha temples.
Yeah, only Nrsimha, only Nrsimha. And but I was funny because I'm very much into research and history and archaeology, architecture, whether it's, I love it, whether it's European, American, I love this idea of the past and history. So when I would go to a village, if there was a Shiva temple, whatever, I would see everything. And then I would meet with the village heads. That was a great information that I think it was Bhanu Swami gave me when I was very young. He said, because I was telling him, what do I do? How do I meet? Like, I need to get information about these temples. What do I do? He said, go to the village heads. And at that time, he knew the language. It's a particular word for the heads of the village. In every tiny village in India, you always have a group of, mostly grihastas, and then the senior guy who's like a vanaprast, the oldest of them all. So once that happened, I was like going to every single one, and a lot of them spoke colloquial English from the British time. So I got really lucky, and then they had old textbooks, they had old chronology from the village. So it was like, it was like feeding this flame of craziness about Nrsimha. So and final thing for me as I gotten older was it's his people that drove me, and even to this day, like whether it's within ISKCON or any other of the Vaishnava traditions, the Madhvas, the Ramanujas, the Shankaras, and the subsects and stuff, their love for him, their devotion, how they worship him, it really and how they know, even though he's like a Vaikuntha Bhav, he's not Gaudiya, they know he's Krishna, but this aspect of him, they worship him because they want to remove the dirtiness, the anarthas, and they're convinced that this is what he does, but he does it like a father, or some of them worship him as like a grandfather. He does it he's strict, but he's kind. So that for me has been really monumental, is because the devotees in a sense are him, because their knowledge, their experience of worship, their sadhana to him, it helped me so much more in an understanding of how Srila Prabhupada taught. Whereas Nrsimha, he said, I think it was Guru Kripa said, we worship Guru, Gauranga, the Nrsimha, and then Radhesham. And so even from the Gaudiyas through West Bengal, even in Bangladesh and Orissa, I learned that in Orissa, there's a bunch of academic theses written on it where they said, Jagannath is not the Lord of Orissa, Nrsimha is. He is the Lord of Orissa, and he is Jagannath. And then they get into the details. They don't chant anything but Nrsimha mantras daily. They don't chant any Bhav, Rasik mantras or about Krishna. It's only Nrsimha. And I was so fascinated, like, why is that aspect? Because Jagannath he's so merciful, but then he's worshipped as Nrsimha Bhagawan, and the Shaligram in him is Nrsimha. Same thing with Radharaman and Vrindavan. And, so many temples around. So this
wait, slow down. What's this Radharaman and Nrsimhadeva?
Well, they that particular the original worship of him was he was a Nrsimha Shaligram. So
yeah.
And Mars, you're an academic, so we have to put there's faith, there's fact, and then there's kind of a bit of a gray in between.
Yes.
I for years I just accepted everything, but once I started doing the actual research, which I didn't realize was and really important, I started to realize, well, wait a minute, we have to be factual. We have to also look at the history, not just the faith. So I started, some temples, it would be like Nrsimha Swayambhuv, but it's a carved deity. Mm. So The ones in the caves where it's a face of him, then this is okay because he manifests there, gave darshan to a devotee. So this can be swayambhu. But an idol I was so confused. I was like, wait a minute. But then as I started doing more research, then yes, there's a shalagram that they place behind him through the back going into his heart when they carved the deity. So because the shalagram is swayambhu, so then in a sense, the idol becomes swayambhu. You know, so all these little, so the same thing with Radharaman in my research, because I was very fascinated how even the Goswamis, they worship him as Nrsimha. Padmanabha, Bhuti Krishna Goswami, Pundarik, all these great, you know, devotees that worship him, they're the Goswamis. So the more research I did, actually, there's a shalagram, and the same thing. It's goes behind him. That shalagram that's behind him that he manifested from is a shalagram that was put in him. So, you know, for years, because as devotees, the mystical side of things, because it is far out, it's so transcendental and wild, but at the same time, when you get down to the nuts and bolts, there's always a perfect chronology of how it began. There's the faith, which is amazing, then the devotee, then he has a vision, maybe he made an idol, a temple, then it created this far out, you know, following of, you know, the cult of Nrsimha. So, and it's been like that through all one temple, a Chintamani Nrsimha, the head is a shalagram. So, and then the body was carved. And this great devotee of Nrsimha, he's in the Hoysala dynasty, he was fanatic Shiva Bhakta, but then in his dream, Shiva told him to worship Nrsimha. So he found the Shila in the it's called my brain's a bit tired, in the sacred river, and then that was a Nrsimha Shila that he made a half of an, you know, like the neck down was the body of Nrsimha. And then he built the Lord Nrsimha's temple and Lord Shiva's temple, because Lord Shiva told him, I always want to be with my Lord. So everywhere I've traveled, every single Nrsimha temple without fail, you have Shiva. Shiva's either in there or he's next to him. And that also blew my mind getting into, because there's always this war, right? Of like Shiva's the one, Nrsimha's the one. But as I got further into it, the third eye of Nrsimha, they say is Shankara, Harihara, that's him. So Shiva asked the Lord, I want to always be with you. And Lord, when he had Lord Nrsimha's darshan, and Nrsimha said, you are always with me. You're my third eye. You're my, you know, so all these really far out.
The plot thickens.
Yeah, the plot thickens. That's what. And we don't, because, you know, sometimes we think Lord Shiva's a demigod, or even some of these saints might be a little too esoteric, or but the more you delve into it, the more you study it and meet the authorities on the subject, it's way more, it becomes less about he or them and them. It's like, you know, for me, I always saw Nrsimha as Krishna Nrsimha, like the gopis call him, you know, Nrsimha Krishna. And for a reason, which is much more esoteric and bhavic, but I always knew this. It's just Krishna in this aspect. He's showing that he cares to help you remove these negative attributes of being a living entity, human being, you know, like envy especially, and jealousy and anger. The biological things like the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, those we can control on a level of goodness, passion, or ignorance. But envy, jealousy, and fear and anger, these are unnecessary things that as a human being, they don't need to enter our consciousness or our being. So And when they do, they really can destroy our spiritual, moving forward. So Nrsimha definitely removes those, and that's what I've come to the understanding. That's what he removed of Hiranyakashipu, because Hiranyakashipu was so far out as a human. He was so powerful, but his envy or hatred towards Nrsimha obviously made him a great personality. Same like Kamsa. Kamsa was almost thinking about Krishna more than most devotees. So his only fault, Hiranyakashipu, was that he envied the boy. He was envious of Prahlad's conviction. Like, how can you be convicted by this idea that there's some bigger, higher force, I am the one, I am the king, I am your God. And so he was so envious and jealous, and it overwhelmed him that he, as a human, couldn't even see this, that Nrsimhadeva came and removed that, and then Prahlad, being such a incredible soul, an example of non-envy, a perfect yogi, non-envy, non-jealous, he asked that his father be freed. his torturer, the guy that wanted to kill him and poison him, he said, free him.
Yeah.
So this is such an amazing example of what a devotee, a bhakti yogi follower is. We don't hold grudges. We're not envious. We're not jealous. It's very hard to practice these, but we have such good examples like Prahlad, and he's probably one of the top, because, if my father, tried to torture me or poison me, I don't know if I would be so quick to, how do you say, not, take revenge, or, how dare this person offend me because I'm so important. So, and lastly, my studies have brought me to that conclusion, that the importance that Srila Prabhupada, the gift that he gave to the world, besides so much, was the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. And it's so monumental and so practical for today. And many people are looking for psychological help, like life coaches, this coach, psychologist. But if you study Prahlad Maharaj's teachings, the stuff that all these people are kind of regurgitating and twisting and making their own thing, Prahlad Maharaj was saying some incredibly epic things that can be so used now to get your life together spiritually and materially, because he was non-judgmental. He never said, you should do this, or you're an idiot, or you're a rascal, or you're in Maya. He said, this is the highest, but we're also affected by these modes, and we have to try to have a balanced parallel. So that's what the second book, even though it's about the God of yoga, it's about Prahlad Maharaj's teachings, and then how it spilt down to, Madhva, Ramanuja, Shankara, then all of our acharyas, especially Bhaktivinoda Thakur's relationship with Lord Nrsimhadeva, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then Srila Prabhupada. And then it sent such an amazing ripple effect, but it has to be, we have to throw gasoline on this idea that Nrsimhadeva him and Prahlad and the teachings that Srila Prabhupada gave us are so relevant for today, because that's what we need to remove the anarthas, so there, sorry, I was going on quite a bit.
That's nice, thank you. I'm a little worried about our translation.
Oh God.
I think it's all going too fast for you, isn't it?
I'm so sorry. I didn't realize we were translating. I would have slowed down.
He's nodding his head. But maybe now, thank you for this overview of what your life story and your present project. It's all really fascinating. I guess we could go for, are you ready for a question or two or three or four or five?
I would be honored. I'd be honored.
Okay. So, are you chanting? You can.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Dhruva Prabhu, for sharing such amazing stories about Lord Nrsimhadeva. And here is also a question regarding Nrsimhadeva. So the question is, I heard about one pillar in which Nrsimha is within and accepts half of the amount of all the offerings given to him. The other half he leaves for the devotees. Could you say something about this deity of Nrsimhadeva?
Yeah, that one is in Andhra Pradesh. Well, now it's the Telangana. Andhra Pradesh has been split. So that's on the coast near the city called Vijayawada. It's called Panaka Nrsimha or Panaka Giri Nrsimha. So he drinks the panakam, which is like a sweet, hot, lemony type of a drink, you know. And like, it's interesting for health. A lot of people tell us in the morning you should have, I think it's agave or honey with a little bit of cayenne pepper and 1-2 other things. So this is kind of jaggery, panaka water. It clears the system out and it cools you down. So this place is called Panaka Nrsimha, and the 5 Pandavas, it's actually mentioned in the Mahabharata and the Puranas, that this is one of the places that the Pandavas resided and worshipped Nrsimha. And he's on top of a mountain in a cave. And he's not on a pillar as such, but he's inside this really far out dark cave. And it's just his mouth, which they believe is a shalagram. And it's a big mouth and it has kind of rigid teeth. And on the sides, there's a shank and a chakra kind of symbol. Very abstract, but you can make it out. And when you go there, there's a big conch shell and they dip it and fill it up with panaka. And they put it in his mouth and he starts, like we drink, it's like, boom, boom, you hear that gulping. So you hear this sound and then all of a sudden, some of it kind of splashes out and fills the conch shell back up. And they believe he only takes half and the rest he gives as Mahaprasad. And this, a lot of people come there who have, they believe mental illnesses or so on and so forth. Or even as I researched it more, people that have kind of a bad mind, criminal mind type people, they come there and they drink this Mahaprasad of Panaka and it cools their mind, it takes things away. They believe. I've seen it. At first I was very skeptical because like I told Maharaj, you have to be like logical faith. And so, but then because I would sit there day after day, very early in the morning with the Brahmin, back then they allowed me in the inner sanctum with them because I was so young and I wouldn't accept no as an answer. So I'd end up getting right on the altar, and it was to see these people's faith and to see the life-changing experience. And then years later to meet the same people who had supposed mental conditions or whatnot. And their life was so much more expanded spiritually and materially, and they dedicated their life to Nrsimha. Yeah, so this is Panaka Nrsimha, and the scientists have done research on this mountain. It's shaped like a sleeping elephant, and I think it's the only volcano in India. Underneath it, so the scientists proved that this Panaka apparently is keeping the mountain cool. I didn't look too much into that. That was way far out for me, and that's why the volcano doesn't erupt. But it's an experience because there's the mountain where he is, and then below is where the Pandavas stayed. And there's a deity of Lakshmi Nrsimha, huge, beautiful deity, and an incredible temple that's over 2,000 plus years old, that they believe this deity, again, a shalagram that was put in a deity, was worshipped by the Pandavas. So that's Panaka Nrsimha, and he's far out. One time when the Brahmin asked me to sit there one time, and I was very curious, when I was young, and I always wanted to touch everything, especially the deities. So I put my hand in, the pujari took off, and I was like, my mind started saying, go touch him, you know, the mind is, and I was like, oh, I better not. But then I gave in to the to the voice, and then I went and touched, and probably because of my adrenaline rush, something happened, but I got a little cut, and I'll never forget it. I thought, not that he cut me, but it was so like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like, you're going to take the candy, you know, your father's sleeping, and he said, don't touch this. You can have this after dinner. Like, if you touch this, you're gonna get. So I was going to take it, and I thought that I scraped my hand on something, and it was like a little cut. And then I went back in and sat down, and the Brahmin came, and he could tell something happened, and he just looked at me like with this, you know, I told you to sit down and not touch anything. And I'll never forget that experience. Yeah, but I was very young, and then when I was young, I got away with, I don't know how I did it, but I think they saw that I had this, well, I was crazy, I had this conviction, and they just let me do things that I would never be able to do anymore. Like in a hobalam, I used to go inside the altar and like take off all the clothes because the idol was so dirty, and I would clean, wash, and, you know, and it was back in the day when you could get away with that. So yeah, very interesting about that question. Panika, or Jagadi Nrsimha, they call him. You can look him up online. Panika Nrsimha.
When I visited that temple, I think it was 1982.
Wow.
I came up, I climbed all the stairs. There are many steps to get up. I don't know how many hundred steps to get up into the temple, which is like a cave. And so I wanted to offer this panakam. The puchari was there and his assistant. And as I remember, I gave 10 rupees.
That was a lot back then.
And he took and the assistant took a pot and went all the way down all those stairs, all those steps to get water. Because there's no water up there. So every time someone wanted to make this panakam offering, they had to go all the way down. It was a long ways down to the bottom of this mountain and get the water, and then carry the water all the way back up. And that's this assistant to the pujari seemed quite happy to do it. It's like, yeah, no problem. Down he went and he came back.
Wow.
That impressed me. some devotion.
That's amazing. Back
Now,
must have been amazing.
Now I understand any coolness I have in my brain, it's to be credited to the panaka-prasravana that I had at Panaka back then.
I need to go get more and bring it back, bottle it.
Question?
Everybody's satisfied with that answer?
Yeah, they're all saying bravo, bravo.
We should take them. We should take them there one time, Maharaj. Maybe we can do a beautiful. Like if everybody's in India, if it works out, that would be amazing.
Don't give them ideas.
Then don't.
Oh. Yeah, that temple is near Simhachalam. So you have Panaka Nrsimha. Then I think there was a question they asked about this vraja-rāja in
Yes.
Simhachalam. I think it's about well, nowadays the highways are very good down there. So maybe 2 hours. Before it took like 10 hours. And that's also on the coast near Vishakhapatnam. So you have a temple called Varaha-Nrsimha, which is mentioned in the Puranas, mentioned in the Mahabharata, mentioned in the Ramayana. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited it. All of the acharyas visited it. So it's the deity of Varaha-Nrsimha. So
You're speaking about Singhachalam?
yeah,
Okay.
someone asked me that question, is this bona fide, this idol? And I mean, to answer it quickly, if Mahaprabhu and all of our acharya, Madhva, Ramanuja, Shankara, and God knows how many after visited that temple, that kind of answers your question. That gives it the stamp of approval that they visited the temple. And
it's in the beginning of chapter 8, Madhya, that Lord Chaitanya visits. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's called Jira Nrsimha Kshetra. Nrsimha Kshetra. But it's there that it includes this prayer. Shri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Jai Jai Nrsimha Prahladesha Jaya Padma Mukta Padma Bringa. That's in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
That's amazing.
Or for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas.
Yeah, very special temple. They cover him in chandan to keep him cool, but I never saw it like that. Sometimes they start these traditions, hundreds or 1,000 years ago. Some, like we cover our deities in chandan or chandan yatra. I think maybe they just extended it a bit more. Let's cover him 364 days of the year. So
that way we don't have to dress him every day.
Brilliant. The Brahmin can just, do less puja. When I first went, I must have been 16, going on maybe 17. And again, I went in and nobody was there. So I just went on the altar. I thought, because he's kind of in the center and it just makes sense that you can go in. And so I can't, and he was there and it's shaped like a lingam. And I just touched and the Brahmin came running in. Well, I was screaming and so I sat down and he was saying something and I just played dumb and just sat there while he started taking off they would start getting ready for the chandan removal, which I had no idea about.
Really? It happens once a year.
Yeah.
You happen to be there that day.
Yeah, I was very lucky. So it was the day before.
Oh.
It was around lunchtime. So in India, there's the there's about 50 chai breaks during the day, and this includes the Brahmins. And then there's about 10 or 15 naps during the day. So I happened to come at a nap time, and this included the chokidars napping. So I just kind of, saw them all relaxing asleep, and I just walked in. And the Brahmin was very kind, actually. Lakshmi Nrsimha, his name was, and he's no longer, but he let me get away with a lot, to the point where when the idol was removed, I got a lot of that chandan. He let me touch him, and the idol's about this big, not so big, 12 inches, very unique and abstract form, like unusual, like Varaha Nrsimha. Then there's a tail, and it's very unique. So that story, when Prahlad Maharaj was thrown off the mountain and Vishnu caught him, Vishnu caught him and brought him down, then Prahlad, the Lord was like, can I give you, ask for anything? And Prahlad said, I want to see the form you killed my father, my father's brother, my uncle, and I want to see the form which you're going to kill my father. So even Madhva and Ramanuja speak on this. When Nrsimha appeared, Prahlad Maharaj wasn't shocked. He already knew, he had this vision. So that form is this form of Varaha Nrsimha, which in Ahobilam they call Krodha Nrsimha. And he's in Ahobilam, he's in a cave, but there he's on top of a mountain. And so they believe this is the exact form, which again, you have the faith, logic, and reality. So I think that vision because the chronology of the deity is a little bit of the temple is a little bit sketchy because of the different invasions. But because it's mentioned, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there, and all the other acharyas and Pandavas and Ram and stuff, so then it gives it this faith. It's accredited faith, like this type of thing. So very far out temple, and it's great because it's very close to. You have a Hobalam, you have Dharampuri, you have Vijay, Mangalagiri, Vishakhapatnam. You have like 5-6 temples very close, and they're very powerful. And most of them are mentioned in the Puranas or the Mahabharata and Ramayana. So that's definitely one of them.
I have a question.
Tell me, Maharaj, tell me.
You mentioned in the South, they call him Krodam Singha. Of course, Krodam means angry, anger. And, we understand that there's the many different forms of Nrsimhadeva, and the one in which the Lord Nrsimha is in the act of doing his operation on Kashipu, we call Ugra Nrsimha. And now and then I get the question, we hear that householders should not worship Ugra Nrsimha. It's too dangerous. Only brahmacharis should worship. So I wonder, is that, where does that come from? I don't know that it's in any shastra, but maybe you've heard something from the priests in different temples, or.
That was something I also. It's kind of like a misconception or a misdiagnosis of that aspect of Nrsimha, and all I can tell you is, out of the hundreds and hundreds of really ferocious looking Ugra Nrsimha deities, every single one is worshipped by a grihasta.
Yeah.
And they're very happy. They're still that I know their father, their father's father. So and when I speak to them, and I spoke to all the heads of the different mutts and ashrams, big acharyas, there's nowhere written anywhere. Madhva never said anything. Shankara, Ramanuja, and the ones that followed. The only thing that's written is in Shalagram Kosha about the only person that can look upon an Ugra Nrsimha Shalagram or touch is a renunciate, because Shalagram is him. You can't like turn off a switch. Whereas an idol, he can come and go, right? The Prampratishta, you can do it, but then if he feels neglected, he can come and go. And the same potency and power and strictness is not, it's more laxed with the idol worship than Shalagram. So that's the only thing I've seen where they mention that. And the Swamis say that it's just the Ugra Nrsimha Shalagram, and it's generally tawny, that brown red color. That's the only thing. But other than that, they encourage grihastas to worship Ugra Nrsimha, because in that form you're seeing what he's removing,
right?
And he's removing our problems, and our problems, even though sometimes as a married man or woman, maybe our problem that day is our spouse or our kids, but our real problems is the controlling tendency and the envy and the jealousy. And that's why they encourage Ugra Nrsimha worship.
You realize that what you're saying, after this program, everyone's going to run out and get the deities and say, Guru Maharaj. First they'll get the deity, and then they'll come and they'll say, Guru Maharaj, can you give your blessings?
I always get that. A lot of when I travel, a lot of devotees ask me, I have to ask my guru, and it's like if they get an idol of Nrsimha, and I'm like, look, trust me, whoever your Guru Maharaj is not going to discourage you from worshiping Nrsimha because of what he does. But I always tell them, obviously Shalagrams is like a no-no because many people can't have that consistency. But, I encourage, for me, Ugra, I don't have any, I mean, I have Ugra Nrsimha deities, but I give them away, but that's the form that I've always been most attracted to. But because of that aspect of removing the nonsense in my mind, but of late, Yoga Nrsimha is extremely, or Yoga Bhoga Lakshmi Nrsimha is very, I'm very drawn to that aspect of, because again, then he helps control the uncontrollable mind. But Ugra, I always encourage worship. I mean, Srila Prabhupada loved that painting Jadharani did. That's proof enough. And if Prabhupada was concerned, I believe he would have said, okay, let's do a bit more of a Shanti one. His, like, I remember Brahmananda and Gargamuni and Guru Kripa, a lot of the, even I was talking to Harikesh Prabhu about this. Srila Prabhupada was adamant that every temple, ISKCON temple, needed to have a Nrsimhadeva deity, whether small, big, and at that time when Srila Prabhupada was around, it was happening. People were getting it together, Guru Kripa, so many devotees were crazy about Nrsimhadeva, so they were making it happen. And then after Srila Prabhupada physically left, things kind of, a lot of those deities ended up in, being worshipped by grihastas, or things kind of, fell apart. But the worship of Nrsimha, and the reason Srila Prabhupada wanted us to have that was to, and he said, so I think it was Srivas Prabhu told me, that painting of Ugra Nrsimha, he wanted in every temple. And, so I think because it strikes fear in those non-believers' hearts, and then it strikes awesome enthusiasm and upliftment in those who are, dedicated to our process. So I'm not telling anyone to worship Ugra Nrsimha, but I'm saying that there's nothing in any scripture or Swami or book that says he shouldn't be worshipped by grihastas or females. And obviously, and Maharaj, because the Pancharatra Pradik or the Vaikanasa Agamas, they're very strict with who can worship the Murlava, the main deity. Mm-hmm. But I see sometimes in South, the older females, when the Ucchvasa comes, they're the ones kind of, the pujaris are doing the whole ceremony and stuff, but the females are putting the garlands, the flowers, the boga, the this, the that, handing the lamps. So it's very, when the small Ucchvasa comes out, it's very, both males and females are taking part in that process session. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Listen to Guru Maharaj, everybody.
So, Odaya Chandrika?
Yes, we have few philosophical questions now. So Bhaktivinoda Thakura was praying to Lord Nrsimha at Nrsimhapali for Raja Bhakti. How realistic is that we have similar prayers like this? Do only devotees on the level of Bhava pray like this?
I mean, it's a beacon of light for where we want to go and be and how we pray. I mean, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, Madhva's Ramanuja's. I mean, Madhva focused on Nrsimha's nails. He didn't even go in. He was so transfixed on the nails of Nrsimha. He was praying to those. So I think it's like anything. When you practice daily, whether it's material or spiritual, it adds up. It becomes more real, more powerful. Like in education, Maharaj, you start off and every week, every month, every year, the knowledge becomes more and more concrete and potent. So same thing with our prayer and our sadhana, our puja to Guru, Gauranga, Nrsimha, Radha Krishna. It's just adding every day a drop. And if we have the sincerity, I believe, from all these people I've met over the years, it definitely works. It removes that kind of envy, jealousy, or controlling tendency, so that our prayers become more, I'm talking about others, I'm not talking about me. I still have a lot of that, I still have that stuff, but I've met people that don't. So it's real, and your prayer can become potent, just like our acharyas and advanced devotees, whether male or female. So they're the example to give us proof that it can happen and that we can get there. What do you think, Maharaj?
What do I think? The question was about whether we can offer a prayer which is like that of Bhaktivinoda Thakura. I would say he composed the prayers for us. So he didn't say, I'm offering this prayer and nobody else should offer it. Whatever. I think he's, we've been reading and singing his songs of Kalyana Kalpataru. And there's some very interesting lyrics in which he's describing within one song his own feeling of being utterly and completely fallen. And in the same song, practically in the same line or same verse, his feeling of suddenly being connected with Krishna Lila, like from one, from one verse to the next.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And he's writing those songs for the devotees. He's his whole Namhata program, that was much later than his Kalyana Kalpataru, but he was writing the later songbooks at the same time that he was establishing this Namhata program all over West Bengal. Why was he writing the songs? Because they are teaching how to understand bhakti, Krishna bhakti. So I think we don't need to hesitate. And as you said, there's a cumulative effect. We gradually imbibe that which we are practicing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, let's have one more philosophical question and then we can go to the practical ones. So, if Lord Chaitanya desires to give the highest benediction through the process of Sankirtana, what should be the mood of worshipping Lord Nrsimhadeva?
That's a nice one, because Mahaprabhu, I think he manifested 3 times as Lord Nrsimhadeva, or was it 2? Maharaj, you remember? The Kazi, and then
yeah, and then when he was reciting the Vishnu Sahasranam and the name Nrsimha came up, and he started roaring and running through the street. Yeah,
that's well, that's an interesting question. What should be the mood of worshiping Lord Nrsimhadeva?
I don't think we can imitate Lord Chaitanya in roaring and running through the street.
It's not a good idea. People might how do you say, lock us up. But I think, I remember Satchidananda Swami, we were talking about this, like chanting the holy name, right? Doing our japa or kirtan. Still the mind is wandering and causing distraction. So he, was saying how he prays to Nrsimhadeva, like even while he's chanting, to remove this distraction and to be very focused on the meaning of the Maha Mantra. And, I think worshiping Lord Nrsimhadeva, it's hard to give a one answer, because there's different natures of human beings, and devotees have different, they come at it differently. And I don't know if it can be so blanket, black and white, but it definitely, like, I would start by reading Prahlad Maharaj's teachings, like how to approach, like how Prahlad Maharaj approaches Lord Nrsimhadeva. It's such awe and reverence, but it's still bhavik. It still has rasa. It's still very in the Gaudiya mood, even though it's Nrsimhadeva is like a Vaikuntha level as well. So we approach in our Gaudiya tradition, we worship Lord Nrsimhadeva. I just stick to the same, to remove our impediments on our practice of Krishna consciousness, whether that's our sadhana, looking after family, looking after guru, parents, ourselves, work. So that is the nature of, I believe, worshiping him, is that he can help us daily by prayer to him to stay very balanced in our parallels of the spiritual material life. So we don't get too overwhelmed. That's how I approach him and pray to him, like for a balance, to not throw everything out and give up, because it is hard, but to not, either way, not one end of the spectrum. So a nice balance, if that makes any sense. What do you think, Mark?
Nrsimhadeva, the Lord of balance.
Balance, yeah. That's a good one. I like that.
Well, our experience in Singachalam in Germany of Nrsimhadeva is that he's heavy. He's heavy, but in a sweet sort of way. He doesn't go anywhere. He's in one place. Yes, he's everywhere. Ito Nrsimha Parato Nrsimha. Yato Yami Tato Nrsimha. But he's wherever he is, he's really, really, really stable.
He's there.
He's there. He's not going to get pushed away.
No, it's true. And he's very personal. Sometimes I find, Lord Krishna is so detached. He's so, he cares, but he doesn't. He's your friend, but he's not. He's very, that's what's so amazing about him, this hankering and lamenting. But in that form of Nrsimha, he's like, I'm coming. I'm dealing with this, the problem. I'm helping. I'm there, like you said. I'm present, and I'm not going anywhere. And I will help you. I will remove these problems for you on your spiritual path. So it's very. I noticed that even being a child, very personal with him. I felt very like, yes, he is there. And in South, this last trip, there was a temple that was completely covered by vines, like you see at Indiana Jones, all covered by vines, and there was like bats and cobras. I was rushing to go in the temple, and my photographer team and friends that were with me were like, wait, because I was literally like a kid in a candy shop, like, I'm here, I gotta get in. And it was right when I entered the door, it's like a 2,200-year-old temple, and I felt like, oh my God, he caught me. When I was young, a lot of my teenage friends would sneak out at night to hang out with their buddies. And they would come home, they would think their parents are dumb, but the parents would be waiting there on the sofa, and they would be shocked. So I never did that, but I always heard this. And I was like, I wonder what that feels like. And this last trip, I went into this temple that hadn't been worshipped for hundreds of years. And I felt like I was being like, where have you been? What have you been doing? And I was really like, not scared, but just like, because I had heard about this temple 15, 18 years ago, and I just couldn't make it. And then, of course, we like renovate, we did a whole puja, abhishek, and installed his worship. And now there's a pujari there that does the daily worship. But it was just this, he, like you said, he's there. He didn't leave. and he and the villagers would never go into the temple. They would stand outside and like offer a lamp. And I was like, you people are crazy, get in there, because you can touch him. You can hug him. So all the kids of the village, there was about 15 kids came in there. We were scrubbing him and doing abhishek, and it was a really far out. But yeah, and that even I catch in my mind sometimes. I'll be driving somewhere. This it's almost like I'm still here.
Did you photos of sort of before and after of that temple?
Yeah.
Entered.
Oh yeah. It was funny because in the book I'm working on, that's the only temple where I have something like that, like a before and after, and the devotees worshiping him, and because, and I'm even encouraging, hopefully in Kartik I'll do a tour. I'm like, people should come because we can actually touch him. We can actually do puja. We can actually, and he's thousands of years old. And the Brahmin that I set up to do the puja is so kind. He wants everyone to help, and you can actively be there cleaning, and like there's something so awesome about it. And then before you know it, because I had already contacted the government, asking them, what's going on? Why is this deity? I want to take this deity. Either you figure it out or I'm taking him. And so soon enough, he'll be, stuck. You won't be able to go in anymore. So I'm like encouraging, even I have friends that go there once a month just for this, to get that nectar, and because he's sitting there waiting, appreciating. So why not get it while you can? So
Get the mercy while you can.
get them. Yeah.
Dear Lalita has a question on the chat. Should we have this question?
Oh.
Yes, of course we can have. So the question is, if we have Lakshmi Nrsimha deity at home, what is the best way to celebrate his appearance day? And maybe if I can add to the question, Pralat Nrsimha deities as well, how to celebrate his appearance day.
Well, it's like any, we always celebrate our kids or our families, birthday, and great. I love to do some sort of tapasya, like, so for instance, if there's something everybody likes, just this is a small thing. One Swami told me this friend of mine, Tiagu, who left this world, he said, do whatever you like and whatever makes you comfortable. Don't do it on that day, and offer that tapasya to the Lord. So like, some eating wise, or if you have to eat, fast till noon. If you are not so used to getting up early, get up early, do sadhana, clean the temple, clean your home, things like this. And offer it all to Nrsimha. It's not that just him and we neglect everything and everybody else. Our duties to our family, our guru, our community, temple, that also satisfies him, other devotees. So I think on his day, that's what, even in Simachalam, you can see everybody, even though he's being worshipped, everybody's being worshipped. I was there one time, long back, and I remember that it was like, he's the center focal point, but it's actually the people are so, he was relishing. So it's like the devotees are being worshipped there as well as him, the idol, That's what was very unique about that place, because obviously a lot of devotees come on that day and they feel like they're worshiping him, but I saw it as they're being glorified by him because of their wanting to do seva and garlands and clean and cook, and everybody's in this, get the yagya ready. Like, it's a far out thing. So on his day, definitely anything you can do, especially, loving and respecting and serving other devotees is far out. And if you have a deity, you want to do an abhishek, you want to do, that's it. And any tapasya you can do like that I found, and from my research, that that is what Nrsimha really values. Because look at Prahlad, he was tortured, right? Nobody can surpass that tapasya of sitting and having snakes, being boiled in a pot, you know, lying down, being crushed by an elephant. We can't even come close. But that suffering that boy did brought Nrsimha. Can you imagine? So for me, whatever is in a level of not I want to suffer, but something that is supposedly gratifying to me, whether it's like people like warm showers and, you know, take a freezing, or like, or you sleep in a bed. I know a lot of devotees, the night before Nrsimhadeva, they'll sleep on the hard floor. I remember even Ayendra, even though Ayendra slept on the floor, but he would be even more rigid. He had a small thin mat, and he would remove the mat and like things like that. Like, so yeah, any little thing that you can offer to him, whether it's austerity or more serving the devotees or guru, or, you know, this is what I think is, from my experience, is more uplifting on a plural sense rather than just individualistic.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next question is about fasting. So in the 2018 paper,
This comes up whenever the festival. Then the first question is, how much do we have to fast?
Well, Maharaj, you could, it's interesting.
Go ahead and finish the question though.
Yeah.
In the 19.
okay, in the 2018 paper, Shastric Advisory Council recommends that fasting for the Vishnu Tattva personalities is generally done until the appearance time during the day. However, Shastra also says that Lord Nrsimhadeva appeared at noon, fought with soldiers of Hiranyakashipu all the time till dusk, and then killed the demon Hiranyakashipu. But we still go on with the fasting till dusk. Any comment on that?
Well, I can tell you that I've never met, even though it's a different, because we follow the Gaudiya tradition, but the Shris and the Madhvas, there's no fasting on his day. They get up earlier.
Five times.
Huh? But for us Gaudiyas, again, we do this. The fasting isn't more for us to be austere. The fasting is so that we can have a clear mind to remember and hear about the pastime and glories that day. And we're constantly, instead of thinking about food and gratifying our senses, we're completely engaged in the hearing, remembering, serving, cleaning, cooking, for that Lord on that, whether it's Varaha, no. But another thing is, I know I've spoken to a lot of the Swamis, and I even asked them, so men and women should fast on, and they start laughing at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, this is more of like an austerity to offer this, penance of not eating to the Lord. And they're like, yes, but they would say, there's so many other things you can do. There's so many other, austerities and things you can do that day. But for me, I noticed, and Maharaj, I'm sure you would agree, that not having that constant, or the food can kind of make you a little lazy. I think I feel more clear whether I fast till noon or I serve the devotees on his day and then I eat, So I think it depends on, you can fast till noon, but then who eats at noon? Generally lunch is 1, 2, maybe 3. So moonrise or dusk is hardly that far away. So depending on your, how much more you want to do and just how much more you want to serve, then I think it depends on the person more. What do you think, Maharaj?
Yeah, ultimately, we have to know for ourselves what we can manage. But with Nrsimhadeva, to my knowledge, it's always been fasting until evening. I don't know of just fasting till noon. That story of fighting, appearing at noon and then fighting until evening. I don't know. I'm hearing this for the first time. Is this something in one of the Puranas?
I haven't heard the whole he appeared at noon thing. I've never heard that. And as again, it's always been the most potent time is when he sat at the threshold, and that's at dusk. That's when he kind of appeared, was at dusk, not I never heard that he didn't but then again, it's, I mean, if in our Gaudiya Vaishnava in ISKCON, if we follow till dusk, I think, if I don't know if Srila Prabhupada, did they do that when Srila Prabhupada was here?
Yes, to my knowledge, that was practice.
Then that's the way I would follow. I mean, that's the way I've always followed, because that's how we grew up in Gurukul and stuff. Like, you have a crazy wild kirtan, and then you all overeat. That's
our religion.
That's what we do.
Thank you.
I think.
Oh, can I ask, at what stage are you in writing your book on yoga and Nrsimha?
Right now, the artworks and the actually, I'm supposed to pick up the book today, the first print. I would say it's about 98% done with the art, digital, the beauty of it. The writing, I'm about 75%, because I think when I was talking to you in Simachalam, I want to keep it to a minimum, the writing, where it's chronological, it's factual, and has sayings from the acharyas or different, like Madhva Ramanuja, or the present day sannyasis or swaminis who are devout. So I'm more, because I was putting so much of my attention to the beauty aspect. My plan is to kind of finish the text by his day, and then go over it and maybe send it to a few. Oh, go ahead.
Is this going to be a similar style as your first book, a large format with large photos?
Yeah, it'll be mainly what do they call it? A visceral experience, but it'll be more academically sound rather than my journal or like the Indiana Jones style. Yes, but I mean, there'll be a couple of personal, if there was a unique experience, I'll touch on it, but I definitely decided to keep this book very to the point. Well, why he's the god of yoga, how, when, where, Prahlad Maharaj, the acharyas, Patanjali's connection with it, Lord Shiva's connection with Nrsimha, and then the contemporary devotees that worship him now. That I want to focus on very seriously, because Nrsimha's worshipped throughout the world, not just by Westerners, by Indians, and they're living lives. They have kids, they have families, they have jobs. They're some of them I know are very, very affluent, materially successful people, but they have this addiction to Nrsimha, and before they head into the office or the big boardroom, they have to do a Nrsimha puja. So these I want to focus on the living. There's the contemporary, there's the historical, Prahlad Maharaj, down to Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivinoda, and then I'll focus on the living devotees. And there's some pretty far out, like Simachalam is one of those places I'll focus on because it's unique. They allow women to worship him, and nowhere nowhere in the world is a woman allowed to go touch the murliva of Nrsimha or any other idol. So for me, I thought that was a very nice aspect to show how the glories, his worship is very, it's not that it's contemporary and it's wrapped with all this feminism nonsense or whatever. It's just that it's a group of devotees in this very unique place who have this awesome addiction to Nrsimhadeva, and they're all worshiping him together, young, middle-aged, old, and vice versa. And they're very strict, very rigid the way they follow. So that for me is really, cool to focus on and to show. So this, I was hoping to come there, this Nrsimhadeva's appearance day, but Amara and the whole team are gonna show that. And then also the vibe of the devotees. Amara was telling me yesterday, he said, Dhruva, you don't understand. Look, sometimes we look back at the devotees and you become shocked because they're fixated on him and they see through you. But when they're seeing through you, some of those waves of intention and prayer and love and just dedication to him, they hit you and it kind of shocks you like the static, it makes your hairs go. He said, and it's the most incredible thing to see these devotees love for him. So that, I want to focus on that. Total conviction. Same Prahlad Maharaj had it. Srila Prabhupada had it. Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivinoda, all the Madhva, Ramanuja, Shankara, even this, the devotees in between, and there's so many. This conviction I want to show and how relevant it is for today's world.
That's not, I think you're gonna have a bestseller. And I want to end, we have to end now, but
okay.
the question has come up, where do we get your books? And even, was it gonna be available on Amazon Kindle format? Well, I don't imagine.
Unfortunately, I probably won't do a digital format because, as you know, and bless their hearts, but in India it's hard to keep copyright things down, and so. But I'll probably through Harinam Amrita, probably I'll have her deal with the book stuff, in over there.
For Europe, okay.
She's another person.
We have an inside connection to Harinam. So
Yes, again, another conviction. Great Nrsimha devotee. These people, even another friend of mine. Her name's Radharani. She's here in Alachua, doing her. I'm not sure if it's her thesis on psychology, some aspect of psychology. Brilliant person. Completely, convinced. She's a second generation, convinced of Nrsimha's love and worship, and again, like it seems illogical, but she's so driven to, and she knows without a fact that he protects and promotes her, what she's doing in life. And I think it's I love these types of people, especially the youth, because it gives me hope that irregardless of whatever political la-di-da in institutional bureaucracy, that it gives me hope that the future will be, get a lot be brighter, right, because of this of Nrsimha helping remove some things. So
that's a good note to end on.
Definitely.
Thank you, Dhruva, for joining.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and all your disciples' time, and I look forward to hopefully coming over sometime soon and connecting with you, obviously, and everybody else.
Sure. Okay, can we all unmute ourselves and say Hari Hari Bol?
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Oh, yeah. Jai Nrsimhadeva.
Jai Nrsimhadeva.
Take care, everybody. Jai Nrsimhadeva.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Shri Prahlad. Nrsimhadeva
Ki
ki
jai.
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 Haribol.
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 Haribol. Haribol.
Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Maharaj ki jai. Jai.
Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.